Someone asked me the other day if I could just list off all of the drugs that I've ever taken and talk a little bit about my relationship with them. So, why not? It sounds like fun. I'm drinking coffee and talking about drugs that I either like or don't like. So, we'll begin in the beginning. Was I drank alcohol recreationally for the as opposed to professionally? Recreationally for the first time when I was 15, uh, and liked it. And as a young adult, I was probably drinking too much, but not like crazy. But I was 3 or 4 drinks a day, which is getting into the too much category. Now I'm at 1 or 2 a day, 5 days a week maybe. Uh, I in Alcohol is dangerous and it's got a bad reputation amongst like psychonauts, but I still think that it has its place. It's really social. It can be incredibly creative as far as all of the different forms and stuff. It's like the only drug that people do at low doses, like microdosing. Basically, we don't call it that, but people microdose alcohol a lot. One drink, they hardly feel it, and they're just doing it for the experience. So if you can maintain that, it can be a pretty positive thing. That having been said, of course, it's really dangerous on the other side. I smoked weed for the first time when I was 16. I remember getting started because when you're in high school, at least back then, it was illegal, and everybody is like just assholes trying to take your money, or even getting a pipe is hard. And I think the first 2 times that I tried to smoke weed when I was like 15, I was given like sage or something. And then by the time I got real weed, it was like leaf. It's a different time. But anyway, yep, I still smoke weed. But I have nuanced my technique slightly. I mostly either use a vaporizer or edibles. I will smoke a joint once in a while for the fun of it. Oftentimes, it's sort of a ritual with other people as a social kind of thing. And again, I used to smoke a lot more weed than I do now. I was kind of I was a real stoner for a little while in college. But I've never been into being high all day, which has served me well. So I spend most of my days sober, even though I get mildly high, like 5 milligram gummy, for example, at night, pretty routinely. Um, I'm trying to think of the role. It's borderline psychedelic. It's almost the role of weed is almost in between alcohol and psychedelics. It's a lot more mental than alcohol, but it's relaxing and laid back and not stressful. More like alcohol. Um, it's creative. It's great for playing music or creating art. Uh, but then, as a lot of folks know, ironically, it can create anxiety. Uh, it can make people eat too much. It can kind of, if you smoke a lot of weed, I don't know. These stuff are well known, so I won't go into details. It's just your life. If you smoke too much weed, things get a little foggy. Let's see, but the first psychedelic I ever used was LSD when I was 17. I had a terrible trip. I took 2 hits, which was about 1.5 hits too many, and it fucking freaked me out. But to tell you the truth, I knew there was something there. In fact, I just thought, hey, when I took it, I thought it was going to be recreational, But like even in the bad trip, I felt like it had a spiritual significance I didn't understand yet, but I was intrigued. And that's probably why I did mushrooms when I was 19. And that went better, except for the part where my friend started going off about like how he could just kill me if he wanted to. He was on mushrooms too. That disturbed me. He didn't like mean he wanted to kill me. He was just fascinated by the prospects of in a hypothetical world he could murder me, and he found that very fascinating. And a young cloudless rain on mushrooms did not find it very fascinating. Let's see here. So that was pretty much my arsenal for a long time. That's really normal, right? I started doing acid and mushrooms occasionally, once a month for what, like in college, and I was smoking a lot of weed and drinking a lot. I never got into tobacco, although I've smoked tobacco before plenty of times, but I never became a habit for me. Um, let's see. Then in my mid 20s, that's when I was introduced to salvia, and that's when I got into more, how do you put it, rigorous use of mushrooms, like pairing it with meditation and with sort of. I was playing a lot of music on mushrooms at the time, and it was sort of an ecstatic practice, I suppose, in a sort of semi monastic kind of. I mean, we were a bunch of drunk rock and rollers, but we were also taking mushrooms and doing lots of yoga and like really meditating a lot. So whatever. And that changed my life though, and that is where I was introduced to salvia. Now we're in my late 20s, and uh, I found salvia intriguing at first. It was immediately intriguing. It immediately had potential, but I wasn't even really feeling it. I had access to 5X, which is like not really that strong. And I, the first, I think 4 or 5 times that I smoked salvia, like I got a little bit of the like head spins, but I didn't like, it didn't, the universe didn't open up for real. I didn't hit that threshold where it really meant something till probably my fifth time. The way that happened is that I was with two of my friends in between sets at rehearsal with that band, and we sat on the floor in a circle loading bowls for one another. So we had one pipe, and the idea was that I load it for the next person takes it loads the oh wait takes it, moves the bowl to the next person, right? That person loads it, and let's see here. The actual how it actually works is a little bit over my head right now, but you get the idea. Three people in a circle for about a half hour, just loading and smoking together, and that got me over the threshold. And salvia was, uh, to this day, to this day, my relationship with salvia is crazy because it is like my closest. It's one of my closest companions as far as drugs go. It's my closest, most important companion. But it is also like not a tame lion. You every time you don't really know what you're getting in for, and it's like my cat, kind of. Like we have a great relationship. She likes being pet. She likes playing with me, but she also likes biting and scratching me. You just never know with salvia. But that means there's a lot of room to develop that relationship over the years, and that's what I've done for 20 years now. That was now. Keep in mind, at this point, all that stuff is still illegal. Weed was illegal. Well, alcohol wasn't. Salvia wasn't at the time. But acid and mushrooms were a lot harder to get to. I went a long time without doing acid again. Let's see. Then the psychedelic revolution started years later. When I got into making videos about salvia. Oh, I almost skipped over ayahuasca. I did try ayahuasca just once. Let's see here, in my late 30s, I guess. And that was a pretty amazing experience, but I've only done it once. And actually, my one trip with ayahuasca, which was at a Peruvian ritual, for some reason, it taught me a lesson that I needed about salvia. At the time, nobody says they're similar, but I felt at the time that they had a certain similarity, and that the ayahuasca ritual, it something like dawned on me. I had an insight about my relationship with salvia, and then I got interested in using salvia more ritualistically, like formally, really showing a lot of respect and adding some formality to my salvia practice. And it really, really helped. Now, I don't exactly have a formal like ritual about salvia anymore, but going through that phase really helped me push that relationship deeper. And I owe that to ayahuasca. I should do it again sometime, but Haven't yet. Let's see here. Yeah, then we get to the point where I am in my 40s, and it's just the last few years, and I start, making videos for about salvia, and I actually did have a cold spell there for a while where I wasn't using very many drugs. Oh, I guess it was probably when I was about no 40, more like mid 30s, I guess, when I did MDMA for the first time. Sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here. I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot about a drug. Don't forget about that one. Yeah, I did ecstasy for the first time. I guess must have been about 10 years ago, and believe it or not, I liked it. It's actually the first time I ever did it was at a uh, EDM club, uh, live PA, actually, not a DJ, but a live band, but it was EDM in Beijing. And somebody who I just met that day, another expat that I had just met that day, gave me this pill, and I assumed it was ecstasy. It was ecstasy, and it was clean. But yeah, that was the only time I used any drugs in China because it's hard to get there, and I fucking loved it. I had a blast that night, and MDMA has been part of my arsenal ever since. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, but like meaningful fun. I mean, alcohol is fun and usually not meaningful fun. MDA is meaningful fun. Let's see here. And then lately, I've been exploring a lot more. Right, my relationship, particularly with salvia, has continued to deepen. It still deepens, but only in the last couple of years since psychedelics have become part of my social identity. I've taken upon myself to really explore a lot more chemicals. So most recently, I uh, I explored 2CB, which I really like because it basically reminds me a lot of acid, only the trip is about half as long. It's as simple as that. And when you've got an active life and you've got a family and you've got responsibilities and a job and shit, uh, YouTube videos that need to get shot, uh, having the option of something like an acid trip that's only 5 or 6 hours instead of 12 is really, really cool. 2CB is great, and it's part of my arsenal now. I also did mescaline once. I like that a lot. I could see, I don't know. It's hard to get, it's expensive, and it lasts for fucking ever. So it's not that I didn't like it. I did like it a lot. But like that is more like a vision quest kind of experience, and I would like to take a higher dose. I've only done it once. I'd like to maybe double that dose to where really go really deep with it. um but I wouldn't call it part of my arsenal. uh what is part of my arsenal now is ketamine, and I've been using sublingual pharmaceutical ketamine, and that dissociative quality is somewhat like salvia, but it also is more comfortable and relaxing. Even it has sort of a depressant quality that salvia does not have. And I find ketamine is great for like healing, I guess. You can work on it's a great one, I think, for changing your habits, um, changing your relationship with your body. It's also just great for, like MDMA and like weed, it's great for listening to music, but it's not great for playing music. No. For playing music, you want weed, MDMA, and maybe mushrooms. For listening to music, you want ketamine. Whew, that's really fun. You see, each one is a tool. You, I say, this is in my arsenal. This isn't. Oh yeah, I did at a party once. Take some coke. I did not love it. I had a great time at the party, but I was like, is it even doing anything? Opiates. Like, I've taken pharmaceutical opiates and for the fun of it, like taking 3 and drank a beer to see what happened, and, like, I was high, but I found it really boring. Fuck, I keep on remembering other things I've tried. When I was in college, for about a month, I had access to, Nepali opium, and, my friend and I were putting opium on our weed, like, for a month, over and over again. And it's funny because the opiate thing doesn't like work for me or something. I don't know. Anyway, so he loved it, and he loved it so much that he decided never to get it again. Sometimes when there's something you shouldn't have access to. For me though, I like the taste. I thought it made the weed taste better. Other than that, the high was buzzy and annoying. I didn't like it at all. Let's see. This video is getting long. I guess my list is kind of long, but there are definitely a lot of things not on my list. I think these count, though. I have also lately been exploring legal, very mild things. Kratom, opiate, kind of. I don't like it. Kava, I do like it. Kava is really the prime, the prime possibility for replacing alcohol. And I'm even my wife and I are planning on starting a kava bar because it's really cool. It's social. It tastes like dirt. And the effects on your mind are really subtle unless you're drinking a ton. But there's just something about it that's fun. And I think there's a lot of potential there with kava. And then another one is Kana. And you can take Kana several ways, but the way I have learned how to do it, and it works really well, is you've got extract and you sniff a little bit of it, which I'd say at first it freaked me out. It still freaks me out a little bit, but because it's so much like Coke, and I feel like Scarface, like a Cokehead every time I do it. But the truth is that I like it. It's head spinny. It's like simple. It doesn't last long. It's like 15 minutes. Some people say it's reminiscent of MDMA, and I do see that kind of. It's reminiscent of MDMA. And it is sort of just a fun and relatively safe, from what I hear, toy. Don't take it too seriously. Don't get into it, but it's a safe little toy. Let's see. I want to do DXM. I do have DXM pills, and I've taken a lot more than the cough. It's 300 milligrams for your cough, and I've maybe taken like 150 milligrams, so it's starting to get psychoactive at that point. But I haven't like tripped on it. I just don't have time. It lasts like 12 hours. But you've got all of these different possibilities and tools that I have not used and I haven't listed. And at first, you're just exploring. And it's interesting because as you try different drugs, yes, you're exploring the world of drugs, but these are subjective states that you're being introduced to. So you're also exploring different aspects of your own mind. So you're ultimately learning about yourself. Even when you try nitrous oxide, I forget about that one. It doesn't deserve to be. No, I've done it a few times when I was like, in college, I guess, and I wasn't terribly impressed. It's sort of like Kana, like it's just fun. It's not meaningful. It's fun, but it's not fun. It made my head feel like it was going to explode. Anyway, but with all of these things, you are learning about the possibilities that are locked in your brain. And then you do them a few more times, you do your harm reduction, and you figure out if you have a relationship with that substance, is it going to be able to enhance your life? Does it have a possibilities for helping you be happy or helping you grow or teaching you things? And then hopefully you can cultivate that relationship. And then, just like I've said over and over again with salvia, every single one of these substances, it can be a relationship that evolves over time, and you learn different techniques, mushrooms, right? There's microdosing, there's low dosing, there's medium dosing, there's hero dosing, right? And each one of those is a completely different adventure and can have a completely different role in your life, even though it's the same chemicals. Something I'm really interested in right now is trying low dose mushrooms, like in the slot that I've always had weed. And I want to explore that. So, like a third of a gram up to a 1 gram, like that level where you feel it but barely. I'm interested in exploring that and doing it like just in an evening. It's 9 o'clock and I want to have a nice evening. Why don't I try low dose mushrooms instead of weed and see what happens? You explore these things, and then you can turn them into functional tools in your life, and then your life gets cool, right? So that's the answer to that question. I can't see the clock, but I got a feeling that's a long video. Oh well.